Oh, the talking point or the reasoning, the point of reasoning, and the reasoning point, the color of the Ark of Noah, the color of the Ark of Noah, but also Noah himself. The color of Noah, was Noah an albino? Now, we mentioned this already in the previous vid. In fact, just to pick up on it and get into text, because we took a little segue right there to get a little bit more into the references, right? The references and the resources, right? What are the references and the resources that are available to us? Okay, I think it's on this page right here. All right, on this page right here, just to backtrack it by one. So Noah, according to the Ethiopic, right? According to the Ethiopic, Noah was and is described as an albino. This is okay. There it goes right there. There we go right there. Right. Was Ethiopian Enoch, was Noah. The first albino. Was Noah the first albino from the original man? Or we could say the original Adam, the original black man. We say, based on the evidence, based on the scripture and I study, we say yes. But even in saying yes, now we're meditating this word, because we've heard a lot of other things, and we still hear there's other opinions and speculations and theories and ideas and beliefs and even make-believes. But no, this is the reality. This is the half of the story that hasn't been told, that we are seeking to proclaim and to tell and to share with those who are willing to give an ear to hear. You hear? Shama'a Yisrael, Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh Ahad. So here, the Ethiopic and the Ethiopian book of Enoch, contained in the early church canon, right? And the true church, right? And we're looking at especially the Jewish. So from our roots, we represent more the Jewish Christianity, or the Jewish church, or the black Jewish, the Yehuda, and more specifically, the Lion of the tribe of Judah. So when we are looking into art and facts, we come across Ethiopic Enoch. And within Ethiopic Enoch, it contains much that helps us to understand what those of our previous times better understood, right? And so here we are putting the reference to our reprint and republication of the Book of Enoch as translated from Professor Dillman's Ethiopic text. And we have had the time and taken the time to consult with that very same text. So just pointing that out as well, that when we are putting forward these references, we are also seeking to go to the primary sources, and as close to the oldest sources, right? And also resources that we can find, and also where possible to make it available to the Chabarim, to make it available to I friends and to the fellow co-laborers and the students and the disciples of the King of Kings Christ. Amen. So Noah being an albino here, and looking it up, we come across the fragment, this fragment of the book of Enoch. Well, actually, Slika, the fragment of the book of Noah, Slika Ali, forgive Yikretane Wandamoch, the fragment of the book of Noah, which is contained in the book and the Ethiopic book, right, of Henuk, Enoch. And here on Sacred Texts, right, the website known as sacredtext.com, they have 1917. If you just look at it again, you will see that this is 1893, right, the 1893. Let's just zoom in right here. All right, get that clear so you can you see it for the monitor? There you go, 1893, right? 1893. So we have 1893. Then some years later, right? We have right here 1917. Okay, let's tighten the screen a little bit so you can see it. Can you sight it right there? Oh yeah, there it goes right here. 19 in the brackets, 1917. Right, 1917. All right, so a couple of years later, when they first translated it and then going over the translation and peer review and, all that, like they say, refining their translation. We sought to put out we like when they first translate a lot of the Ethiopic or attempted to translate certain texts and documents, looking over their raw notes, because sometimes in those raw notes, they discover certain things. And because of the white Western Gentile frame of mind, they suppress it later on in their reprints or upgrades, so to speak. In their later versions, they kind of suppress certain things. But when they first go through it, it's good. It's kind of like getting that like ringside seat, so to speak. That invisible man perspective, you're there. And because they don't think that, I don't know if they ever thought that ones like us, our generation would come, but John knew that I day would come, and even Noah, even knew, even the Messiah, he knew. He said that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. So shall the days of the Son of Man be. So in studying Noah, right, it's not just about what happened way back there in the past, but how does that give us a sign of the times, right? Or sign so that we better can know the time and the season that we're living in, so that we too, just like Noah, can be prepared and enter into Ja'ark. And enter into Ja'ark and be saved. So let's look at Noah. Noah, first albino. Where does the scripture? We have the fragment right here, the fragment of the book of Noah, right? The fragment of the book of Noah. Let's zoom out a little bit to get it a little full. There we go, right there. Now the icon that we're using is a Russian Orthodox icon. Right. And we've been searching for our different icons, especially like of the patriarchs and of the prophets and some of the significant, and the key characters that we come across, the key personalities, the key people of the scripture, because we knew that in the early church and even among the Yehudi, the Jews and the Israelites, they did have icons or pictures, as we have family pictures as well. Right. So let's get out of that Western Gentile confusion, on like icons and statues. Statues are some different things. We talk about the graven images or like those statues, but having like a two-dimensional icons, this goes way, way ancient. Right. This is known. Now, there's a difference between, images of so-called worship, so forth and so on, like these three-dimensional images. That's what Jah word, in Torah, that's what he forbade in the 10 words, the Aseret HaDebarim. But getting into the fragment. So this is a fragment. So Noah has a book. So in seeing this icon right here where Noah too, as well in this icon, it has a scroll. Then in looking at how the icon is colored, because we know that many of the icons very clearly, show the black and the brown, complexion of the Hebrews and especially the Jews and the Israelites, right? The people of the book. I and our ancestors, the patriarchs and the matriarchs. So in recovering this Noah picture right here, and also finding out that it does link with some of those preserved images from the Russian church. So it's especially the Russian church that I keep in I prayer, especially the Russian faithful, because many of them had preserved what is obviously black and brown images. Right, of the icons and the iconography, because even though the truth has been crushed in the earth, it will rise again. And we're in that time of the resurrections. So this fragment of the book of Noah from the chapter CVI, which is 106, the C 100, the V 5, and the 1. So that CVI will be 106 to 107 CVII. So here in chapter CVI or 106, this is the translation from the Book of Enoch, translated by R.H. Charles. This is from the 1917 translation. Right? He says, and after some days, my son Methuselah took a wife for his son Lamech, and she became pregnant by him and bore a son. Verse 2 says, and his body was white as snow and red as the blooming of a rose, and the hair of his head and his long locks were white as wool, and his eyes beautiful. And when he opened his eyes, he lighted up the whole house like the sun, and the whole house was very bright. And thereupon he arose in the hands of the midwife. He opened his mouth and conversed with the Adon, the Ha'adon, the Adonai, the Aten, the Adonai of Tzaddik, right, of Tzedek, right, Tzedakah, right, of righteousness, the Lord, right, the Master, the Adonai of Tzedek, right. And his father Lamech was afraid of him and fled, and came to his father Methuselah. And he said to him, I have begotten a strange son, diverse from and unlike man. Now, in the script, in the Enoch, it basically says he was not like Ha'adam, like the children of Adam. And remember, this is the lineage of Adam from Seth, coming down through like Enoch to Methuselah to Lamech and then to Noah, who was the 10th from Adam. Right? So Lamech said to his father concerning the birth of Noah, right? Noah, I have begotten a strange son, diverse and unlike man or unlike Adam, and resembling the sons of the God of heaven. Right? Or if you look in some of the manuscripts, the sons of heaven, right? And his nature is different, and he is not like us, and his eyes are as the rays of the sun, and his countenance is glorious. And it seems to me that he is not sprung from me, but from the angels or the Melachim, right? The Malaikt. And I fear that in his days a wonder may be wrought, may be done on the earth, ha'eretz. And now, my father, I am here to petition thee and implore thee that thou mayest go to Enoch, Enoch, our father, Abinu, and learn from him the truth, for his dwelling place is amongst the Melachim. That Enoch's dwelling place was amongst the Melaikt or the Melachim, the angels. And when Methuselah heard the words of his son, he came to me to the ends of the earth. Now, the next matter too, my brothers and sisters, since we've been speaking on the flat earth and the flat horizon and the true shape or the plain truth about, the planet earth, it's also very important for us as well to put within our studies and our meditations also the new information, the true shape of the earth. You know what I mean? So also with this phrase here, some would say, well, there is no end of the earth. No, there are ends of the earth. It's written ends of the earth, right? And the best and much verified, the information that we even can verify on the flat horizon, the flat earth, the ends of the earth, the true shape of the earth. So even the new, right, and Jah view of the earth. Not this globe thing. So Firebun global, Firebun global, and globalism. and schism. We reach this message out, the message of the King of Kings, the good news, the gospel of the good news of the King of Kings kingdom to all nations, to international. So international, that's what we're speaking, international to the nations, right? And worldwide and earthwide, but firebun the globe. The whole globe idea is pseudoscience or gnosis pseudonymos. Knowledge falsely so-called. So to find that, well, when we look at the text and the ancient texts and we find the phrases ends of the earth, some in the modern pseudoscience sought to attempt to debunk the word of Jah and say, well, that's just maybe poetical. But now we learn how true it is. So Methuselah, when he heard the words of his son, he came to Henok, Enoch, to the ends of the earth, for he had heard that I was there. And he cried aloud, and I heard his voice, and I came to him, and I said to him, behold, Hine, here am I, my son. Wherefore hast thou come to me? And he answered and said, because of a great anxiety have I come to thee, and because of a disturbing vision have I approached. And now, my father, hear me. To Lamech, my son, there hath been born a son, the like of whom there is none, and his nature is not like man's nature, to say that his nature was not like Adam's, right, of the black and the brown people before him. He was an albino, right, it was white, right, and red and reddish, right, the ruddiness, right. Now, let's go on right here. It says, and now, my father, hear me, to Lamech, my son, B'nai Lamech, there hath been born a bane, a son, the like of whom there is none. And his nature is not like man's nature, and the color of his body is whiter than snow and redder than the bloom of a rose. Now, it's interesting when we speak about the red and the reddish brown and the soil, the earth, the Adamah. If you look at that reddish brown, that rich reddish brown, mineral rich soil, right? And then look at the complexion of black and brown people, you can see where this ancient symbolic learning to read and interpret the symbolic types right. It does not mean when a white so-called man is blushing, or something like that. That's not what is being spoken of here. That's a pseudo hermeneutics. That's a false interpretation. And notice it says, and the hair of his head is whiter than white wool. Notice the connection with wool, the texture with wool, right? And black and brown people in that unique, when we're talking about in the original, in the first type, in the first instance, which Moses in his first book records as the Adam and Ha-Adam. And his eyes are like the rays of the sun, and he opened his eyes, and thereupon lighteth up the whole house. And he arose in the hands of the midwife, and opened his mouth, and blessed the Lord, the Adonai of Shamayim. And his father Lamech, right, became afraid and fled to Ai, and did not believe, did not admit, could not credit that he was sprung from him, but that he was in the likeness of the Melakim, the angels of heaven, of the Shamayim. And behold, look, see, I have come to the Ai, that thou mayest make known to me Ha-emet, the truth. And I, Henok, or Enoch, answered and said to him, Adonai Adonai will do a new thing on the earth. And this I have already seen in a vision, and make known to thee, that in the generation of my father Jared, some of the Melakim, right? Some of the Melakim, the angels, the Melaikt of Shamayim, of heaven, or the place of the celestial waters, place of Mayim, the waters, transgress the word of Ha-Adon, of the Lord. of Adonai. And behold, they commit sin and transgress the law, ha-Torah, and have united themselves with woman, and commit sin with them, and have married some of them, and have begotten children by them, and they produce on the earth giants, not according to the Spirit. Right? Giants on the earth, giants, not according to the Spirit, but according to the flesh. And there shall be a great punishment on the earth, and the earth shall be cleansed from all impurity. Yea, there shall come a great destruction over the whole earth, and there shall be a deluge, a flood, and a great destruction for one shana, for 1 year, one shana, one revolution, for an entire revolution. That's what a shana is, a reduplication, a revolution, right? Revolution of time. And this son who has been born to you shall be left on the earth, and his 3 children shall be saved with him when all mankind, or when all humanity that are on the earth shall die. He and his sons shall be saved because they were in the ark. And we're going to touch on Noah's ark as well. Very interesting. What's the color of Noah's ark? Now, if you notice, if you go look up a lot of like Noah's ark kind of pics and recreations and speculations and everything, so some very interesting and insightful things to be found, but you notice that all of them will be without pitch. Now, remember what the pitch was. Right? The pitch, it was to be pitched on the outside and pitched on the inside. What's the significance of the pitch? And then the connection of the pitch, or the kofar, right? With that kind of black tar, right? And the color of the ark, the color of the cross, and also ha-kipporim, kapar. The word kippur, which is atonement, comes from that word, the same root word as that pitch, that black pitch. So what is the true color, right, of Noah's ark? And then also, how does Noah's ark also connect with the wood, and the wood of the cross of HaMoshiach as well? That's also a connection, and a reasoning, right? A point of reasoning in the meditation, in this 5777 for the Shabbat Noch. But let's just go on a little bit more here from verse 18. And it says, and now make known to thy son Lamech that he who has been born is in truth his son, and call his name Noah, or Noah. Call his name Noah. Now, Noah, Ankh, when we get into the Ethiopic and the Ge'ez, the connection there is very interesting. For he shall be left to you, and he and his son shall be saved from the destruction, the downstruction of the earth, which shall come upon the earth on account of all the sin, the chatat, the uckery, and all the unrighteousness, all the ratchetness, which shall be consummated on the earth in his days, within his times. And after that, there shall come, let's go right here. And after that, there shall come, where are we? Right here. And after that, there, verse 19, and after that, there shall be still more unrighteousness than that which was first consummated on the earth. For I know the mysteries, right? Okay, that's outside the frame. You can't see that right there. Where he says, for I know the mysteries. Let's see if we can line that up. It's at the bottom part. Let's lift that up a little bit so you can see that on the screen. Just this part of the chapter right here. And we've already touched on the main part, and would love to get into like the Ethiopic as well. Right? And Ethiopic is before the 4th century, way before the 4th century. You know what I mean? As far as language, because we heard some mispronouncing the Ge'ez as Ge'ez, saying that, Ethiopic came about in the 4th century. I don't know what Wikipedia or what research they're doing, but that is a bunch of pseudonymous, gnosis pseudonymous, pseudoscience, pseudo-knowledge. That's not the right fact, not right and exact, and we got the evidence for that. Verse 19 says, and after that, there shall be still more unrighteousness, ratchetness than that which was first consummated on the earth. For I know the mysteries, and the word mistater in the Hebrew, mistir, right, in the Ethiopic, mistater, right, links with the myth or the myth, the mythos or the myth stories. In other words, these Hebrew, and now here in the Hebraic we have the Hebrew mythos, right, the Hebrew myths. Now, we're going to own that right there, because, see, when you get into the etymology of myth and really see what they have done, not only have they whitewashed the images and the iconographies, and also changed up the theologies, you know what I mean? They've also flipped up the meaning of words in these past 400 years. It's interesting how many words that we use, and like word myth, and we'll think it means something foolish or stupid, but actually that's only because they have changed laws and times, and even the laws and times of the meaning of words. That's Babylon right there. That's Babylon for you. Babylon, what's the meaning of Babylon? Babylon means confusion. Come out of her. Come out of her, my people. Open the matrix, and come out. For he, the Lord, Ha'adon, Adonai, Cha, Rastafari, has shown I, and informed I, and I have read them in the heavenly tablets. All right, so that's how this chapter here, right, chapter 106, right, chapter 106. It's a little bit more from this site right here. We're at sacredtext.com. And we were looking into the book of Enoch, the 1917 translation by R.H. Charles, and speaking on not the race so much. We're talking about the complexions. Noah was black man, right? From Adam. He was a black man, but he was different than the other black men, or black and brown, those with black and brown, like the rich red earth ground, complexions. He was different in that he was born an albino, a black albino. And this is a very interesting subject matter because we have actual evidence. We have actual evidence today that we can look to. Even today, we have black people, Africans, so-called, or others giving birth to albinos, and not all albinos bear the same so-called phenotypes. Right. What is similar to most of them is the lack of epidural, we could say, a melanin or melanation, within their complexion. But there's also two types of melanin. We'll touch on that right there. But our main point here is concerning the fragment of the book of Noah. And since the second sabbatical, the sabbatical strong, that reading and feeding for those sevens, for the Shabbat, Noch, the Senbet, Noch, the Sabbath, Noah, Torah portion reading and feedings concerning Noah, we thought that it would be very useful, just to remind the Chaverim, then you remind the fellow disciples and students of the King of Kings Christ of these documents, as well as they are part of, you could say, our library or the true treasury, right? The treasury of knowledge or word that has been preserved even to these latter days and times, as the princes come out of Egypt. Mekwanen kagibitz ayewet alu Ethiopia Jochuan or the Ekaziabihar to Zargalech. The Ethiopians stretch forth her hands to God. Princes shall come out of Egypt. So in looking at this icon, based on the description and also based on so much more that we have come across as well, in our research, and, how we've been disappointed with all the whitenizing, whitewashing, and all the goofy stuff concerning Noah and Noah's flood, and the telling of that story in the various different, Christianities, the whitewash Western Gentile Christianity. It was good to find this Russian Orthodox icon that we display on the left-hand side of the screen as we would say this is our main icon for Noah right now from the ancient testimony. That means we as Kiddusites Kudusan and Kedoshim of this time, linking with those in Yahweh Truth and Life before us, and also linking with their testimonies, right? Whether it's in the word, the sound, whether it's the art, such as here, or the facts, such as here as well, within the Ethiopic book of Enoch, and in the 1917 translation by R.H. Charles, we can clearly see from the description right here, two main things. We see two main things being garnered, right? Two main things can be gathered in from this. One is that Enoch, yes, he wasn't white in the sense of, as people say, white people, so-called. Today, he wasn't white in that sense as his race, right? But his complexion. So see, even the terms race, seed, we have to break down these paradigms, these old form of the so-called new world, the old new world order of colonial, Gentile, counterfeit Christian, white so-called supremacy of the Anglo-American, this empire, this world order, which scripturally is likened to, the city that spiritually is known as Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified, because every time they whitewash the image of Yeshua HaMashiach, it is like crucifying him. It's a symbolic way of crucifying him when they whitewash his image and his icon, or those of you who will support or endorse such whitewashing. I know a lot of it has gone on, and some of it is is grandfathered in from counterfeit Christian white supremacy. So, that's their art. But to superimpose this art, right, or to even try to speak against those of I and I who is, trying to use the limited means that we have to just present the evidence, to present the facts so people can know the truth for themselves, right? Because we can already see the consciousness. We talk about the resurrection, the ascension, the consciousness, the real rapture, right? The Rastafari rapture is on because we're meeting, right, the King of Kings in the Christ consciousness of mind, right? And beginning to really see things from Yahweh and taking that time, even from 7 to 7, to enjoy Jah view. So albino Noach, right, and his black ark. So we're going to speak a little bit more in the forwards on Noah's black ark, right? Albino Noah's black ark. Perhaps we might even try to work with that as the title, but definitely it's a talking point. It's just some of the reasoning, the reasoning points here. So was Noah an albino, right? We went into it a little bit in this previous vid that you can Google and find right there. Ethiopian Book of Enoch, was Noah first albino black? So the second thing that the Book of Enoch demonstrates is that although Noah, in the fragment from the book of Noah, although Noah was an albino, or we can describe him as like a black albino, because there's also other albinos that have more of the phenotypes and even, the hair types, right, of what we would call, in a sense, Europeans or latter-day Europeans. So the early Europeans were black people as well, too. This is just pointing out the facts, not getting into even any kind of a superiority complex, but just pointing out the main facts. We first have to put the context of the truth and history in context to see how it really was. Right? How was it before the past 400 plus years of counterfeit cracker Christian, so-called pseudo-white supremacy in these latter days and times, in the times of the Gentiles? How was it before? Right. And as we begin to do that, we really see how, Babylon is falling into its place, right? But how we are able to rise, that ascension, that rising, right? That rising into grace, and also seeing very clearly the reality of the scriptures of